This is our flat flexible cable kit we developed. So you get 8 ribbon cables, and you are getting 5 of the jumper cables. So we have stripped down this C32 unit. I mean, it's not going to be this simple. You've got wires everywhere. You have a onboard amplifier located here. You have 2 large capacitors. You have a large transformer here, and there's wires everywhere. But for the ease of demonstration, we are going to replace each of the jumper cables, as you see here, and each of the flat flexible cable, the FFCs. Most of this you can do without removing boards, but when it gets to the listen and the mode selector board, this one is going to have to come out. So there are some ribbons that you can get from the bottom, but like I said, there's boards that you're going to have to remove. For the ease of demonstration, we have removed everything except for the boards and the cables, the ribbons. No soldering is required for these flat cables. However, we have 5 jumper cables that do require one end to be soldered to a board and the other end inserted into the corresponding board. Here's my disclaimer. Working with electricity is dangerous and can cause injury or even death. Do not attempt to do any work on your electronic equipment unless you're fully qualified to do so and you know what you're doing. This unit is an extreme example of delamination of these cables. Just take them down. They were anchored at the factory with tape. Once you pull these out, there's no getting them back in. This was an upstart company by the name of Gore, and this was innovated at the time, and they're still being used. Here's a case where the actual jumper cable just disintegrated. I mean, all that's left is wire. Let's start with the 4-pin jumper cable number 9. This requires soldering to one end of the board, which is here. It's the push button board on the bottom. And the other end, we're going to install a screw down terminal into this expander board header so that we get a better connection. With the jumper cable installed, soldered on the push button board, and our screw down terminal installed on the other end, we can now go ahead and press down, rocking back and forth until it's seated. And there you go. The other jumper cables we're going to install are number 10 and number 11. These are 5 contacts, and they again require one end of the jumper cable to be soldered onto the board, and in this case the power supply and the screw down terminal to the right of the input switchboards. And you can see these here. All right, this one's going to take some time, so I'm going to do this off camera. And so we have the cables installed, and again, this makes it so much easier to use these screw down terminals. Power supply board back in place. We'll go ahead and insert these headers. Again, these headers give you more surface contact than the traditional one-wire insert. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take care of the jumper cable on the expander board right here, and we'll make sure that this has a header and will be inserted here on the power supply board. We have the jumper cable installed on the expander board. Pretty easy to do. Soldered one end, and you have the screw down block terminal ready to be inserted. Let's put this back in the unit. Okay, we have our expander board back into the chassis, And we'll go ahead and press this down, get it seated firmly. And there you go. The last jumper cable we have is number 13. It's a 4-contact. And again, it requires soldering on one board and then the screw-down terminal into the other board. These are left and right output terminal boards. And this one is fairly easy to get to. We're going to see how difficult this is. It's been oxidized. I'm going to move that ribbon, as you can see. And you have to take out the bottom output board, because this is the one that you have to solder your jumper cable to. All right, this is the last jumper cable. This is the right output board. And it's complete, ready to be plugged in. Let's put it back in the unit. Our right output board is now installed, the fresh jumper cable, and we have our screw down terminals ready to put in. And gently rock it back and forth until it's seated. All of the jumper cables are now installed. We have number 9, 10, and 11 underneath, 12, and 13. These can be bent to accommodate the chassis. Let's install the flat flexible cable. There's 8 pieces in here. These do not require soldering. They insert into the headers of each board. What's unique with our flexible cables is that we now have a blue backer, which secures this cable into the headers. So you no longer need to tape them. And these can be bent. They're copper. These can be bent if necessary. We're going to go ahead and change our first cable. We'll go ahead and remove one end of the flat flexible cable. Once they come out, sometimes they just don't go in. All the cables are labeled. As you can see, this one is to the tone filter board to the expander board. The one end is inserted, and you can go ahead and insert the top end. Just rock back and forth until it's firmly seated. Give a gentle tug. This is ribbon number 2, which is the tone filter board to the push button switchboard. Let's go ahead and remove that. Let's get the bottom. And they come right out. So this is the number 2 ribbon, tone filter board to the push button board. We can go ahead and insert this into the top portion. Rock back and forth until they seat properly. And there you go. We're going to change out ribbon number 3 and number 4. These are the most difficult ones to change out because you're going to have to remove 1, 2 boards and the LED board. So this one will come out. Ribbons are already out on these, lay it to the side. And you're going to have to get in here to unscrew the light board. It's held on by 2 screws. The 2 screws that are used to remove the LED board are accessed through these 2 small holes in the front. With the 2 small screws removed or backed out, you now can pull out your light board. With the LED light board already in place and the flat flexible cable installed, we're ready to install this piece. Place in there and rock back and forth gently till it's seated. There you go. Give a gentle pull. Cable 4 and 5 are inserted into the listen mode switchboard. But before we put this back in the chassis, we are going to have to remove the record board down here. And we're going to change this ribbon, which is number 6. Now we have the ribbon cables in the record switchboard and also the listen mode switchboard. We can go ahead and install these on the chassis now. Before we insert number 5 and 6, we're going to have to replace number 7 and 8 first, because these actually have the header on the top, but they go behind the header for number 5, and over here it goes behind header number 6. Let's remove cable number 7. Pretty easy. And I want you to remember that number 7 is the back row. Installing header number 7. You can bend these. Again, these are copper. You can bend them. No fear of breaking them. This goes into the back header. And rock back and forth. Sorry about the camera. Give it a little tug. That's in. And we can do the same thing here. Bend a little bit. Place it into the header. Rock back and forth. And there you go. Number 7 is installed. We can now go ahead and install number 5. I'll give this one just a little bend. And this goes into the front header. Sorry about the shaking. Gentle rock back and forth. And a gentle pull. It's installed. Removed number 8. At this point, you can remove cable number 6 from its header. We're ready to install cable number 8. This is the back header. And give it a little rock, a little rocking back and forth. Give it a tug, and then we'll insert it to the top. Give it a tug. It's good. At this point, you only have one cable left. This is the longest cable. This is cable number 6. And what you could do is go ahead and pre-bend it to the original one. We just go ahead, bring it over, rock back and forth. You now have all your jumper cables and your flat flexible cables installed. Note, everything has been removed from this chassis. You have wires everywhere. You have an amplifier here, a small headphone amp. You have a large transformer here. You have large capacitors back here. So it is tight and it is very, very busy. But this is just to give you an idea. It's not a difficult job. Thanks again.